Hey everyone, my name is Dan and I work at the Co here in Jackson, Tennessee, your local entrepreneur center. And today I've got with me
former Dev Catalyst participant Tiwong Nance.
And so today we're going to talk about two different topics. We're going to talk about soft skills and how to network. Two very important things to know about while navigating your professional life. And so we're going to jump right into it. And so soft skills, what are soft skills?
Yeah, soft skills are the ability to communicate what you're doing effectively. Basically, speaking to people, making sure that, you can build an application, but can you communicate what it's doing to the people?
Correct. Yeah, this is not what you know. It's kind of how you act in a professional environment. It's not can you code. It's can you teach this code? Can you explain what it is you are trying to accomplish with this code?
Exactly. And part of that is really communicating with your team effectively and making sure that you're effectively making a better work environment by having those soft skills.
Exactly. And it's just teamwork. Can you work nice with your coworkers? Do they respect you? Do they like you? Do they find you annoying? Things like that are soft skills to be aware of and to improve on, because quite honestly, a lot of employers value these even higher than your technical skills. Right. Because in the long run, they want to make sure that their work environment is exactly what they hope it to be. And if someone's acting out of line, regardless of how well they know what they're doing, it's just not going to be a great fit. So we've got a checklist here of soft skills. There's a lot of them, but we kind of just summarized a few of the big ones. I'm going to go through the list here and try and give a little insight to each. So, open to feedback.
Yeah.
Has there been a moment where you've gotten some feedback maybe that you didn't want to hear, and how did you react?
Exactly, yeah, that constructive criticism, you have to be able to take that criticism whether it's good or bad. And part of that, I'll give an example is, I was during my last internship last summer, and one of the things that happened was this manager wanted me to build a service, but one of the things was my interpretation was build the entire thing. So I spent a few days like cranking out code, and then I get to him the next day and he's like, "Oh no, Tiwong, we just wanted you to simply boot up a simple service, which wasn't as complicated as I made it out to be." So part of that is being able to effectively communicate what you want to do, but also asking clarifying questions so that you can be able to understand what's going on.
Yeah, that's great. Our next one on the list is relationship development. And in my mind, what this means is, I guess, do you care about your coworkers? There's things you can talk about at work that kind of build your relationship and your rapport between that coworker. And there's things not to talk about. But if you just go to work every day, don't talk to a single person, and then you leave for the day, it's kind of awkward, Maybe you're not the most extroverted person, and talking to strangers is difficult, but I really do think that if you take a little bit of time throughout your day to get to know some of your coworkers and the people that you interact with, maybe they're not coworkers, maybe they're potential clients and customers. If you can, build a very brief relationship with them and get to know them, it can help a whole lot more than you could ever imagine. And the next one is teamwork exercises. So I feel like a lot of businesses really, these icebreaker exercises, they're pretty dumb sometimes, but they have a purpose. They're really kind of loosening everyone up to the idea that, you don't know everyone in the room, but here's some forced ways to get to know them quicker.
Exactly.
Have you been in some situations like that?
Yes, and you really want to break the ice. That's what it's meant to do, because you are in a position where you probably won't even know people sometimes, and so it's really important that you're able to communicate not just with people you know, but people you don't know, because those are usually your customers. They're usually people who are using your product, or people just managers you've never had. So, yeah.
Our next one is be flexible, and I can't stress this enough. Things change. They don't go as planned all the time, and so if you're flexible and can roll with the punches in a work environment, you are so much more inclined to be a better coworker. Your bosses will respect you more, and if they're afraid, if people are having to walk on tippy toes around you when they know things maybe didn't go as planned, and you're prone to getting upset and frustrated, it doesn't look good for you. And so be open and be flexible to changes in the work environment. Anything you can say to that?
Sometimes you'll have people who work in Spain, Colombia, all over the country or the world. And so those different time zones can really be a conflict sometimes when you're scheduling. Part of that is being able to be flexible and saying, hey, you know what? I know it's like 3 a.m. your time. How about I do it earlier in my day so that you don't have to wake up so early?
Yeah, that's great. Another one is arrive to work on time.
Yes.
It's so simple, but a lot of people struggle. This shows a number of things. One, that you care, you're punctual. Maybe there's deadlines that need to be done, and if you're showing up late and you're putting stress on your coworkers that maybe you're not thinking of yourself, like, I'll get my work done in time, but maybe your coworkers need something from you. And if you're not there, that makes their job harder, and that's the last thing you want to do.
Exactly. One thing from Morehouse I learned is to be early is to be on time, and to be on time is to be late, and that's unexpectable and unacceptable.
For sure. And and whether it's preparing for an interview or a meeting, if you're early, chances are you're a lot more relaxed and comfortable in that environment, or maybe you have time to think of something you probably forgot and have time to go get that and be better prepared than you could have been.
Exactly.
The next one is navigating expectations. So Tiwong, I guess maybe elaborate a time where your expectations were here, but someone's expectations were over here, and how did you mitigate that?
Yeah, I'll give an example of me also being in my internship. So last summer, my manager had a project for me, and I was building a backend database service. But one of the issues was at the beginning I built a blueprint, and so I was showing this to different architects. And so my expectations were, Twilio, probably a few $1,000s is going to be really hurtful. Well, they're like a multi-billion-dollar company. A few $1,000s is not much when you're considering budget. So when you're making those kind of ideations and solutions and you're putting in a blueprint, sometimes you can think of smaller solutions that may not fit the bigger picture. So it's important to really take a grasp and ask questions for that to navigate through.
Speaking of asking questions, that's our next topic. This is one of the tactics that I use quite often is, I'm not afraid to ask questions. I'm not afraid to look dumb asking those questions too, because it's better to be in the know and maybe bug someone a little bit by seeming more interested than to stay silent, not ask questions, and then really look silly when it's something you should have known, and you could have solved that had you just asked the question.
Exactly.
And so don't be afraid, educate yourself. Take that initiative and ask those questions earlier on, so you get the context and the whole scope of what you're working on, whether it's a project or a sales pitch, whatever. Ask those questions so that you are educated and you're the smartest person in that room now because of that.
Exactly.
And so question for you, Tiwong. What was a soft skill that you knew you weren't good at or realized you weren't good at, and how did you work on it to improve that?
One that I was not really good at and still working on is just being more outgoing in terms of being vocal with my ideas. I would always have some pretty neat ideas of things and how to build applications, but I would always be the one to kind of be the listener and listen to everyone else's perspective and kind of let them be the flow of the room. While that is great and acceptable in terms of teamwork, it's also can be a detriment, because you could have a really great idea, and then if you're just silent about it and you don't express it, then no one else will be able to execute on that idea, and then someone else will end up building the product that you could have built better if you had voiced that opinion.
That's great. And so lastly, I think this is something that a lot of people have trouble with, is if you don't know something, be honest and own up to it. Or maybe someone has a problem with something the way you did. Accept the fact that you're not perfect. No one's perfect. Don't put blame on someone else. Own that mistake, and you'll find that issue getting resolved a lot quicker. People will continue to respect you, and it just makes the work life a whole lot easier if you can just take it upon yourself to say, "Hey, I messed up. I will improve. I will make this right." And I think a lot of people will think very highly of you because of that very characteristic that you owned up to it.
And it's okay to make mistakes. You need to make mistakes in the beginning so that in the end, you're able to not make those mistakes.
So once again, soft skills are the skills that are more personality based, not your technical skills like coding. So definitely very important to work on, and we'll see you in the next section.